there can't be just an infinite number of explanations for the world, because there's only so many that worked, and most of them don't work.
Should we give up on a single true account and accept that there are many alternative scientific accounts of the world?
So this is an interesting, edgy version of a debate we're having here. That is a perennial debate that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years in history of thought. Philosophers have argued for since Plato and on about whether things in the world, whether we can grasp reality or whether it's really our ideas, realism versus idealism. That lies at the core of how this debate has been formulated. Now, I'd like to disagree a bit with the premise of the debate to begin with, because I believe that when you study science and how science has developed, and particularly in the 20th century and the century that is ours, science is not fundamentally driven by a quest for truth, which is usually the premise for most of these debates. When you look at it more closely, science is fundamentally driven by what you can do with it, with action, with mobilization, with putting something into use. Truth is almost like a secondary effect, or maybe in the minds of many individual scientists, this is what they're looking for, but the endeavor of science moves in a somewhat different direction. So to give you an example from particle physics, for example, has in the last century been able to, and especially in the last 50 years, developed a very, very sophisticated model for the subatomic particles that has been repeatedly shown to be consistent and is gathered as a very consistent and valid model. Now, virtual particles, quasi-particles, subatomic particles, we see them as integers on a screen. That's how the physicists would see them experimentally. And of course, philosophers could turn to say, is that reality that we're capturing on the screen? Or is that really just a correlation that is just a reflection of something that is not ultimately reality? Now, from the scientific perspective, this debate is very academic, because it doesn't really matter if it's real or not. What matters is what you can do with it. So as soon as you discover something like a subatomic particle, it doesn't really matter to the scientist whether that is ultimately true or not. It matters how you can mobilize it, what you can do with it. And so I think this is important to keep in mind when we talk about science, that it's not primarily, like we like to think that it's ultimately about finding the truth of the universe, but we should perhaps pay more attention to what the purpose of that science is, like how we are using the science.
Good, thank you very much. Michael?
Yeah, I think that's right. The application of knowledge to solving problems is probably the key to science's success. So to that extent, there can't be just an infinite number of explanations for the world, because there's only so many that worked, and most of them don't work. And so I guess if we encountered extraterrestrial intelligences, are they using spacecraft propulsion systems that are like ours? They won't call it Newtonian gravity, because they won't have a Newton. They'll call it whatever their Xenu, the Galactic Warrior physics or whatever. Scientology reference. Anyway, but they won't call it Fermat's last theorem, but they'll have something like that. That's our presumption. Assuming gravity works on other planets or galaxies or whatever, it's probably true. So that's not culturally relative. If it turns out they have a completely different physics, well, that would be interesting. But even here, there's not Indian physics and British physics and American, there's different interests, but it's just the same physics, unlike religion, which is definitely culturally bound, right? And then even in social science problems, like why is there inflation? And how do we control inflation? Well, you have economists that are sort of right-leaning, economists that are left-leaning, Keynesian economists or whatever. But there's not like 100 different theories. There's maybe 2 or 3, and we nudge them this way or that way. So I think it's limited, based not just on our cognition or the size of our brains or how they're structured, but also the world itself is limited. And so you can only have so many explanations that actually work to do something. And therefore, I would not agree that it's all culturally bound and there's just an infinite number of explanations.
Thank you. Sunetra?
Okay, you asked me to disagree, and I'm going to disagree. So the way I see it, and this applies across the sciences and the arts and everything, is that I am not an idealist, so I do believe there is an objective reality, and the fundamental problem, which actually Bjørn has already mentioned, is that we are only able to perceive or even attempt to perceive that objective reality through our senses. So we are limited at the base by our senses, and indeed Heisenberg famously showed that the senses not only limit what we can observe, but also intervene. So as soon as we try to observe it, it changes this reality. So nonetheless, we can see a fish, we can touch it, we can smell it, and therefore we have a representation or the phenomena of fish available to us through our senses. But as we've always wanted to know more, we want to understand sort of what is a fish, what's the essence of fish. We're always trying to head towards, that's our fundamental human quest, the will, as Schopenhauer would call it, where we try and understand this objective reality. We try and go beyond what our senses can tell us by replacing it with an abstraction. And in science, that's typically a model. So this sort of desire to understand the objective reality has to be mediated through building models. But what's very important is a model is an abstraction. It's not a replica. So when we talk about realism and is a model, is it right? Is it correct? I think we are misinterpreting the whole process. So George Box, the statistician, famously said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Now, I really find that quote extremely irritating because models are not supposed to be right. And actually here, I suppose I'm not really disagreeing because precisely what you said, Bjørn, and it's not really about, does this model, is it a replica of the reality that we're trying to find out? It's more a question of, does this model, which is always going to be wrong, there is no way a model can be right, but does it give you an insight into the system? What is it about the model then that provides a better understanding of the system? So I'm going to just toss out a quote that I often do when I'm talking about models and realism and what we can expect of a model. I'm going to end with a quote from Georgia O'Keeffe, where she says, "Nothing is less real than realism. Details are confusing. It's only by selection, by elimination, by emphasis that we get at the real meaning of things." But I do think that the reason why we have models is, yes, of course, to use them to send us to the moon and whatnot, but it's really out of a more fundamental will to try and understand that objective reality that we face.
Okay.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below. Or visit iai.tv for more debates and talks from the world's leading thinkers on today's biggest ideas.